I just don't know what to say. What is up, guys and Christopher Nolan fans? Welcome back to my channel. This is OCD Movie Reviews. My name is Untitled, and man, I am so pumped to review this movie. Today, I'm going to review the latest biographical thriller film, Oppenheimer. This movie is directed by the one and only Christopher Nolan, who directed, of course, the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, and this movie, of course, stars Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Florence, Pugh, Robert Downey Jr., and so many people that I'm not going to spoil because there's a lot of big names in this movie, and I want you guys to see this movie to find out those big names because, man, there's so many people in this movie. And this movie is a true story of Robert J. Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb. During World War II, Oppenheimer and a team of scientists spent years developing a project of designing the atomic bomb. Their work comes to fruition on July 16th, 1945, as they witnessed the world's first nuclear explosion, forever changing the course of history. Of course, we have a new Christopher Nolan movie out, guys, and yes, Christopher Nolan. Whenever he is making a new film, I have to be anticipated for it. Because Christopher Nolan is that great of a director. The guy who developed the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Memento, The Prestige, Interstellar, Dunkirk. He is that great of a director. So whenever there's a Christopher Nolan film, I'm always pumped. And when I heard that he is directing a biopic movie about the father of the atomic bomb, I was excited for this movie. Of course, I heard about Robert J. Oppenheimer, but I haven't heard the full story about what happened during the Manhattan Project and what happened after the results of one of the biggest nuclear tests in history, creating the atomic bomb, one of the biggest weapons in history. So I haven't heard the story behind the scenes, so that's why I was very excited for this movie. I have a friend that knows about the American Prometheus, so I was very interested in this movie, going into this movie not knowing what is going to happen. But of course, I'm excited for this movie because it's a Christopher Nolan film. Whenever there's a Christopher Nolan film, I'm always excited because he's one of my favorite directors of all time. And the cast of this movie is absolutely incredible. From Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh. There's a lot of people also in this movie, which we'll get back in this review. And oh my gosh, guys, I gotta say, I watched this movie in 70mm in IMAX, which is, in my opinion, the best way to see this movie. Oppenheimer is seriously, I just don't know what to say. Oppenheimer is basically cinema. This is a movie that brings back cinema. And in my opinion, this is one of Christopher Nolan's better films, in my opinion, since Inception. This movie, from 3 hours, blew my mind. And I would say, I don't want to say so far because I don't know what can beat Oppenheimer. Possibly Dune Part 2, but this movie is honestly my favorite movie of this entire year. Let's of course talk about the cast of this movie. First, Cillian Murphy. Now, Cillian Murphy has been supporting characters in Christopher Nolan's films. You know, throughout the Dark Knight trilogy, through Inception, through Dunkirk. This is his first main role in a Christopher Nolan film. And holy shit, not just that this is one of the best performances of him in a Christopher Nolan film, but I think this is the role that I will remember Cillian Murphy in. He is so fantastic as Robert J. Oppenheimer. He has the looks of him. He definitely looks like the real Robert J. Oppenheimer, but he performs his character so well. We can see the positive side of Robert J. Oppenheimer and also his negative side, but Cillian Murphy just brings that charm within his character. And seriously, guys, this is the guy that I want to get nominated for Best Actor in the Oscars. He's just that fantastic in this movie. He brings his character to life. He's so impactful in this film. Even for scenes where he's not even talking, his facial expressions, you can understand what Oppenheimer is feeling throughout the situations he is in. And that is thanks to Cillian Murphy's great performance in this movie. His performance absolutely blew my mind. But also the other actors. Matt Damon was great in this film. He brings up some great comedic laughs, surprisingly. He has a great chemistry with Cillian Murphy in this film. He plays this great grumpy general in this film. Emily Blunt, also as Oppenheimer's wife, is also incredible in this film. There is literally a moment with her character in this film where I'm just like, man, another Oscar contender for Best Supporting Actress. She's great in the film. Florence Pugh is also fantastic in the film. Without spoiling it, her role is very important with the story. But I gotta say, speaking of Oscar bait, Robert Downey Jr. absolutely needs that nomination for Best Supporting Actor because, man, ever since we've seen Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, he is great as Iron Man, but we've forgotten how great of an actor he is outside of an MCU character. Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer shows that he is a great actor, and this is a great comeback to Robert Downey Jr. And in my opinion, this is definitely one of my favorite performances by Robert Downey Jr. There's a scene in this movie where I'm like, done. He needs that Oscar. He needs that Best Supporting Actor Oscar. He's just that great in this film. He's such an intense character in this film. And I'm just so glad Christopher Nolan casted Robert Downey Jr. because he is perfect for this role. But there are so many actors in this film that I didn't even know that are in this film in the first place. There are big actors that are in this film that had like really small roles. That shows that there are actors that want to be in a Christopher Nolan film, and it shows how impactful Christopher Nolan is as a director. That he's so inspirational to young movie fans out there, and also the entire world. And it just shows that Christopher Nolan is also very old school. He films this movie on film, not digital, in 70mm. This film is extremely practical. There's no visual effects. Yes, the atomic bomb is also practical. It is so fucking hard to believe that's practical. It just shows that Christopher Nolan is still a director that knows what movies are all about. Nothing wrong with visual effects in film or anything, but I like a bit of old school filmmaking once in a while, and Christopher Nolan just brings that back. He brings movies back. Now, I just want to say this as a warning to people who have not seen this film yet. If you guys aren't fans of dialogue-driven films or political thriller films, you're not going to enjoy this film, because this film is a 3-hour political thriller film with the atomic bomb in it. If you don't like any of those aspects, you won't like this film. To me, I don't mind dialogue-driven films as long as it impacts me and intrigues me. Oppenheimer, from start to finish, absolutely intrigues me. The dialogue of this film is just so well paced. Even though it's 3 hours long, it didn't feel like that for me. This film felt like it's 2 hours and 30 minutes long. It's a political epic that knows exactly what it is. It knows how it's written. Christopher Nolan, even though this film is very dialogue heavy, he knows how to impact people. And throughout the whole 3 hours, I was invested in Oppenheimer from start to finish. But also, the filmmaking techniques are great in this film. Hoyt van Hoytema, I don't know if I say his name right, I apologize, but his cinematography in this movie is so incredible in this film. He's the guy that did the cinematography for Interstellar and Tenet. He really develops the cinematography in this movie very, very well. It's very impactful. Also, hopefully I say his name right as well. Ludwig Göransson, hopefully I say his name right. I don't know if I say his name right. I apologize. His score in this movie. He composed the score for Tenet and the Creed movies. Holy shit, his score in this movie is also really incredible, and it develops one of my favorite scores of this entire year. There's one score in particular that I was literally so immersed in. But this movie is very impactful from start to finish. Oppenheimer has moments where I would absolutely remember in 2023. Seriously, the scene. You know what scene I'm talking about. The scene that we've all been waiting for. It is great. It creates probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire year. I would also mention the sound mixing and the sound editing of this film is also really incredible. The film, it got me into my edge of my seat the entire time. And just, man, just everything about Oppenheimer from start to finish is the movie that brings movies back. It brings cinema back, in my personal opinion. It's a movie that absolutely impacts me from start to finish. Even though this movie is very heavily dialogued, I was still invested in the 3 hours. And like I said, it didn't feel like 3 hours at all. Because this movie has great actors that performed their performances very, very well. We had a great director that understands what people want from movies. A director that's also very old school, but also we had some great cinematography, great editing, great sound design, and just a great written, complex story in general that, honestly, I was very invested in from start to finish. And this is coming from the guy that doesn't know anything about Robert J. Oppenheimer's history. And every single moment of this film, I was very invested in. There are intense moments, there are some emotional moments, there are some very, very heavy, intense moments. This movie just knows how to impact me from start to finish. Christopher Nolan, you have freaking done it again. And it proves to us that movies that felt like movies are still out there. And Oppenheimer is honestly the movie that we needed for cinema. Overall, guys, Oppenheimer, easily decided, is one of the better Christopher Nolan films since Inception, and it's honestly my favorite movie of this entire year. The acting is great, especially from Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. Those two actors really stood out for me. This is a great 3-hour political drama thriller epic, and Christopher Nolan just directed this film very, very well, with great cinematography, great sound design, great complex story that we follow along the whole way through. Again, if you don't like heavily dialogue movies, you'll find this movie pretty boring. To me, I didn't find this movie boring at all. This is definitely a movie that I will rewatch and remember in 2023. I don't know if Dune Part 2 is going to beat this movie, but honestly, Oppenheimer is a movie that just brings back movies for me and brings back cinema. Absolutely, I am going to give Oppenheimer an A+. Man, this movie blew my entire mind this year. And just, Christopher Nolan, just thank you. You have freaking done it. This is definitely one of your better films, and I would even say this is better than Dunkirk and Tenet in my personal opinion. It just beats all those films in my personal opinion. So guys, that is my review for Oppenheimer. Let me know what you think of this film in the comments below. If you like the film, hate the film, or you thought it's okay. And what is your favorite Christopher Nolan film? Let me know that also in the comments below. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. Keep contact with me. And make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, notified for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day.